Welcome back, everyone. Today we're taking a deep dive into the life of a woman who's, well, kind of fascinating. Um, Ayman Barakah bin Thalaba.
Amen.
Yeah. She's often called the second mother of the Prophet Muhammad. Peace and blessings be upon him. And I gotta say, I'm really curious to see what makes her story so unique.
It's interesting you say that unique because, we hear about the prophet's companions, right?
Right.
But we don't always get such a personal look at someone who knew him from childhood.
That's a good point.
We've got a whole stack of sources here that seem to really paint a picture of her. So, Amen as way more than just someone in the background, you know?
Right. It's like getting a glimpse into everyday life back then. So let's start from the beginning, shall we? Um, Ayman, she wasn't even Arabian, was she?
No, not originally. She was born in Abyssinia, which is modern-day Ethiopia, and she came to Mecca as a servant to Amina bint Wahab.
The Prophet's mother.
Exactly, the prophet's mother. And that detail, that's really important because
Yeah.
it sets the stage for, her position in society even before Islam.
Right, right. Like pre-Islamic Arabia, I mean, that was a whole different world. So she would have been an outsider in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Then, after Amina's death, Ayman became the main caretaker for the young Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, which really cemented that mother-son bond, right?
Oh, absolutely. And that was a huge responsibility, think about it. Ensuring he got back to Mecca safely after his mother passed away and then, raising him during those really important years.
Wow.
The sources actually say that the prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, deeply cherished her. He even said, "She's my mother after my own mother."
Wow, that's really powerful. I mean, to be seen as a mother figure by someone like the Prophet, that's huge.
Mm.
But what's even more amazing is that um, Ayman was one of the very first people to accept Islam. What was that like for her, do we know? To see those first revelations and just embrace the message so completely.
Well, you have to remember, it was a really turbulent time. The early Muslims, they faced a ton of opposition, a lot of persecution. And yet, Ayman, who had already gone through so much hardship as, a servant, an immigrant,
Yeah.
she never wavered in her faith,
Yeah.
not for a second. It really speaks to an incredible inner strength.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting because we see that unwavering faith in other parts of her life too.
Yeah.
Like her marriages, for instance.
Yeah.
Those were both arranged by the Prophet himself, right?
That's right. The first, Ubayd ibn Zayd, and then after he passed away to Zayd ibn Haritha, who was the Prophet's adopted son. And those arrangements, they really show how much the Prophet cared about her well-being,
Mhm.
how much he valued her as part of the Muslim community.
That makes sense. And she became a mother through those marriages.
Exactly. From her first marriage, she had a son, Ayman. That's actually where she got the name Ayman, meaning mother of Ayman.
Oh, wow.
And from her second marriage, she had Usama ibn Zayd. And he went on to become a really prominent figure in Islamic history. He was known as the beloved son of the beloved
Yeah.
because of his closeness to the Prophet. Peace and blessings be upon him.
Wow. I can't help but wonder if um, Ayman's influence, her guidance, played a part in shaping him. It really speaks to the impact she had, not just on the Prophet, but on the next generation too. But I am curious about what else was going on during all this. Did her life change a lot after she accepted Islam, like day to day?
Well, yeah, her social standing definitely changed. Remember, she started as a servant, but in the Muslim community, her piety, her character, being one of the first to accept Islam and her loyalty, all that earned her immense respect.
So her story really challenges the social order of pre-Islamic Arabia.
Absolutely. It shows that in Islam, piety and character are what matters, not where you come from or your ethnicity.
Right.
And the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, emphasized this when he said, Amen is from my family. He considered her an integral part of the community, really highlighting that faith and righteousness were more important than social status.
That's a powerful message, especially for a society that was so focused on tribal ties. I'm sure her life wasn't easy, though. We talked about the persecution early Muslims faced. Did that affect her directly? Do we know?
Well, there's just one incredible story that shows her courage during that time, the Battle of Uhud.
Oh, yeah.
One of the most difficult battles in Islamic history. And Ayman is right there on the battlefield, tending to the wounded, bringing water to the fighters, right in the middle of all the chaos.
Wow. So she wasn't just watching from the sidelines. She was actively involved, showing her dedication to the cause.
Yeah, exactly. It's a true testament to her resilience. Despite all the dangers, all the hardship, she never wavered. Not in her faith, not in her support for the Prophet and the growing Muslim community.
It sounds like she was a woman of incredible strength and conviction. I'm really interested to learn more about how that strength shaped her life and the respect she earned within the community.
It's amazing, isn't it? How her strength, I mean, it wasn't just about being brave on the battlefield. It was this deep inner resilience. It just seems like it was woven into everything she did.
Yeah, like even before Uhud, she'd already been through so much.
Yeah.
Losing her first husband, migrating to Medina, a whole new world, really. But through it all, she held on to her faith, never stopped supporting the Muslim community.
And that unwavering commitment, that loyalty, it really runs through her whole story, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. From her dedication to the Prophet's mother, to the Prophet himself, peace and blessings be upon him, even to her son, Usama. It's
Yeah.
like this ripple effect of devotion and care.
It really makes you think about how that kind of loyalty, it's not something you just stumble upon, you know? It's got to be cultivated. It's a choice, isn't it? To stand by someone, to support them, no matter what.
And it's something that maybe we need to hear more of today, right? I mean, in a world where everything feels so, I don't know, temporary, um, Eamon's life really reminds us that true loyalty, it goes deep. It can withstand anything.
It can. And speaking of withstanding things, her compassion, you really see it shine in those tough moments. Like during Uhud, she wasn't just worried about herself. She was right there, taking care of the wounded, making sure the fighters had water.
It wasn't just bravery, was it?
Yeah.
It was genuine care. Even amidst all that chaos and danger, it's truly inspiring.
It's like her resilience wasn't just about enduring things. It was about taking that strength and, I don't know, turning it outward,
Yeah.
helping others, making a difference.
It's a good reminder that real strength, it's not just toughness, is it? It's using that toughness to lift others up, to be kind, even when things are rough. And all this, her loyalty, resilience, her compassion, it seems like it all stemmed from her faith, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. From the moment she embraced Islam, she never wavered. It wasn't just something passive either. It was a driving force in everything she did. Her choices, her actions, her whole life.
Her faith, it pushed her to support the Prophet,
Mm.
peace and blessings be upon him, to be there for the community, even to be present in those scary, difficult moments like Uhud.
Yeah. It's an amazing example of how faith can lead to action, right? How it can inspire us to, I don't know, live a life that means something. It makes you think, how can we do that with our own beliefs, whatever they are, translate them into action?
That's a great question. Um, Eamon's life, it challenges us to go beyond just believing. It's about living those beliefs, letting them guide us, and how we interact with the world.
Right. And for Ayman, I think one of the most important ways her faith showed through was in her role as a mother.
Yeah, and not just to her own kids, right? But to the Prophet himself. Peace and blessings be upon him. In those early years, she really stepped up as a mother figure, shaping his childhood.
And then there's Usama, the beloved son of the beloved. It's like she played a key role in not one, but two generations of, these incredibly influential figures in Islamic history.
Wow. Makes you wonder about the ripple effect of, I don't know, good parenting. The power of nurturing someone, guiding them, and how they can then go on to change the world.
It really highlights the influence that mothers and caregivers in general can have. And it's not just about these historical figures, It applies to all of us. We all have the power to shape the lives of those around us, to help them grow, to guide them towards being their best selves.
It's a beautiful thought that even in like the grand sweep of history, these individual acts of care, of compassion, they can make a difference that lasts. And thinking about that, it strikes me that Eamon's story also has this message about equality, inclusivity.
Totally. Here's a woman born in Abyssinia, starts as a servant in Mecca, and she becomes this incredibly respected figure in the Muslim community. Her story challenges all those rigid social hierarchies that existed back then.
And it really highlights that core Islamic principle, right? That your true worth, it comes from piety and character, not your family, ethnicity, or where you stand in society. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, saying that Ayman is from my family. It emphasizes that so much.
It really does. He embraced her as part of his own family, showing that in Islam, what truly matters is faith and righteousness. Those are the things that make you belong.
Powerful, especially considering she was an immigrant, a woman, a former servant. She was navigating a society that often pushed people like her to the margins. Yet she found acceptance, respect, even love. within the Muslim community.
It's a reminder that true greatness, it doesn't come from power or social status. It comes from the strength of your character, your compassion, your dedication to living by your values.
And speaking of living by your values, there's one more part of um, Ayman's story I'd love to talk about. It's about something that happened later in her life, something that really shows the love and respect the Prophet, peace and the blessings be upon him, had for her. Okay, this story about her later years, you got to tell me more. What happened?
Well, you see, after the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, migrated to Medina, Ammon actually stayed in Mecca.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. Why would she stay behind?
Hmm. The sources, they don't really say why. But, think about it. It was such a crazy time, right? The Hijra, the whole migration to Medina, a huge shift, in Islamic history, leaving everything behind. I mean, that must have been a tough decision for anyone.
Yeah, that's true. So what happened? Did she eventually go to Medina too?
She did, yeah. Eventually, she decided to make the journey to join the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, and the Muslim community. But it wasn't easy, that trip.
No, I bet it was super dangerous, especially for a woman traveling alone back then.
Oh, totally. It was a risky journey, lots of unknowns. But Eamon, well, she was never one to back down. Courageous and determined, she pushed through.
It sounds like that journey in itself speaks volumes about her faith, her dedication to the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. I mean, wow. So what was it like when she finally reached Medina?
Okay, so this is where the story gets really heartwarming. When the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, heard that Eamon was getting close to Medina, he went out to meet her himself.
He did.
Yeah.
Wow, he could have sent anyone to greet her, but he went personally.
Exactly. I mean, that gesture, it speaks volumes about the respect and love he had for her. It wasn't just a formality. It was real, genuine care and affection.
I can imagine how much that must have meant to her. After that long, difficult journey, to be welcomed like that by the Prophet himself, peace and blessings be upon him.
And it wasn't just a simple hello either. They say when he saw her, his face lit up. He greeted her so warmly, helped her off her camel, even carried her luggage himself into Medina.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It really shows how deep their bond was,
Yeah.
beyond any titles or social roles.
It was a bond built on shared experiences, loyalty, love, respect, all of it. And that simple act of kindness, it says so much about the character of both the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, and Amen.
It really does. You see the Prophet's humility, his compassion. It shows how much he valued those who had always been there for him. And with Ayman, you see her strength, her resilience, and like you said, her unwavering devotion.
It's a reminder that even while building a new society, a new way of life, the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, never forgot those who'd been with him from the start. Loyalty, compassion, those were things he cherished. And he honored people who embodied them.
And Ayman, she definitely embodied those qualities her whole life. Her story is a testament to the power of faith, resilience, compassion. It's a story that, well, it goes beyond just history. It still inspires us today.
It really does. It reminds us that true greatness isn't about power or status. It's about strength of character, unwavering faith, and a commitment to serving others.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I'm just left feeling this sense of awe for Ayman. Her life, it was incredible. Courage, resilience, compassion, unwavering faith, all of it. She was more than just a second mother to the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. She was an amazing woman who truly left her mark on Islamic history.
It's been amazing to explore her story with you, and I hope our listeners, they'll feel inspired by her example, to live lives full of purpose, meaning, and to really live by those values that truly matter.
Thanks for joining me on this journey into the life of Ayman Barakah bint Talaba, a woman who absolutely deserves to be remembered and celebrated.
And thank you to all our listeners for being here with us for another deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep striving to make a positive impact on the world around you. Thank you for watching and listening to this podcast. For more engaging content, follow Guled Nesreddin across all social media platforms, stay connected for the latest updates, and become part of our growing community.